proudly presents NASCAR Inside Winston Cup.
Well, as you can tell, our expert panel is still gathering information for this show today. But what we can tell you is there's a Busch race, a Winston Cup race, and the rookies pretty much look like they dominated the weekend. So we're going to talk about it next, right here on NASCAR's Inside Winston Cup Racing.
Welcome to the post-Coca-Cola 600 edition of NASCAR Inside Winston Cup. Alan Bestwick here in our Charlotte studios to review the longest race of the Winston Cup season with our expert panel of drivers who finished all their studying and information gathering and are all set to deliver a concise, insightful review of Sunday night's race. We welcome to the program Michael Waltrip, driver of the nation's Ren Chevy for Matei Motorsports. I got to get used to that new name, don't I? Johnny Benson, driver of the Lycos Pontiac for Tyler Jett Racing, and Ken Schrader, driver of the M&M's Pontiac for MB2 Racing. Mr. Schrader started 34th and finished...
It took a while to lose them 3 spots.
37th.
Yeah. Car wasn't bad to start, and got in a little deal, knocked toe in off, and we freed it up a bunch, and then I adjusted the rear spoiler myself by backing in turn 2 fence, and couple times in the garage to weld stuff back on and that, and it wasn't pretty.
We'll show you the adjustment on the spoiler in a minute, but you were out playing at the dirt track a little earlier in the week.
Yeah.
Hoppy's new Roadster's there, so we thought we'd show some of this.
Yeah, that was the highlight of the weekend, actually. You know, it was pretty much downhill from there. In fact, this night wasn't real good because 3 of us broke on the first lap.
I was going to say, I wasn't there that night, but I heard you tore 3 of his 4 cars up in a big hurry.
Yeah, the first night went pretty good, but that night it wasn't very good at all.
Those things are neat.
Oh, they're beautiful, but they dropped the green flag, and it was Blaney, Stewart, and one of the Outlaw guys and myself. And they dropped the green flag, went down and 1. No one touched nothing, and 3 of them broke. Spindles.
We got a little bit of developing.
They didn't break the night before.
Well, y'all were a little hard on them.
Yeah.
All right, Johnny started 39th and finished 16th on Sunday night.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be 15th. Got passed on the last lap, but Lycos Pontiac was decent. Just we spent the whole night trying to free it up, and just too tight in the long run. But still, it's good. Still a good day for us. So pretty happy with that.
Gained a lot of positions. Mikey started 12th, finished 18th. You still haven't finished your information gathering.
Well, I want to be, like you said, I want to be concise, and I want to be informed, and I want to be energetic. So I didn't stay in the infield till 6 this morning this year.
Thank you.
Got some sleep last night, and ready to review the weekend's activities.
This would be, you were just about, what, a little past halfway, a little before halfway, fighting to try and stay on the lead lap from Dale Jr.
Yeah, our car was really, really loose all night long, and the whole team put their heads together and came up with one last adjustment there at that 30 laps to go, and we made a lot of gain on it. The car was better at the end. We were able to stay just 1 lap down all night long, so we weren't too terrible bad, but 18th position isn't what we had in mind. We thought we had a better car than that after happy hour on Saturday. The thing ran really well, but I couldn't drive it early with the loose situation, and especially with my recent history of running into the wall. I wanted to make sure. I knew I couldn't finish 18th if I wrecked, so I was kind of a little bit leery of what might happen if I tried any harder, so we just kept working on the car, and they got it better for me at the end.
Our expert panel will review the Coca-Cola 600, Saturday's NASCAR Busch Series race, answer question of the week, and Barry Dodson is in the hot seat. All that coming up. Stay with us.
NASCAR Inside Winston Cup is presented by Pet Boys. Cars like us, people love us. Howard Johnson Hotels and Inns. Howard Johnson makes you feel at home. And the Home Depot, where low prices are just the beginning.
Time to check some of the news headlines now on NASCAR Inside Winston Cup. Wednesday night, Bud Pole qualifying at Charlotte is where we'll start. Dale Earnhardt Jr. was fastest in practice, was one of the final cars to run, and he didn't disappoint, setting a new track record of 186.034 miles an hour to take his first Bud Pole award in Winston Cup competition. Thursday morning, Ray Evernham formally announced the signing of Casey Atwood as the driver of his second car, pictured here with new teammate Bill Elliott. And Ray, the 19-year-old, moving to the Winston Cup level in 2001. Wednesday, NASCAR fined Joe Nemechek $15 grand for rough driving from this incident in the Winston last Saturday night. The second of 2 times he and Steve Park tangled within a lap. And that cost Mr. Nemechek $15,000 there from NASCAR. We talk about some of the headlines now with Johnny, Michael, and Kenny. Reaction to the fine? I don't know that we've seen a fine for rough driving in quite some time. Thoughts?
Just because someone lets off the gas in front of you and you bump them, that's a lot of money.
He might have been able to get away with that, except for I think he kind of admitted for it happening. So.
Is that what the lesson is? First lesson here? Oh, my foot slipped off the brake.
Yeah.
You gotta remember that when a wreck like that happens, that cost Dale Earnhardt and Andy Petrie a lot more than $15,000 to fix those cars. So there's always underlying cost to situations like that. Both those guys wrecked, and so it was a bad deal already because of the cars being tore up, and those cars were fast, and you know the teams had tested them and developed them, and they were running well, and then they had them wrecked. So that sometimes is enough of a penalty for a guy when he tears his car up too in the process. But everybody kind of agreed that something needed to happen on that situation. You can't just do that at Charlotte and run into people and wreck them. And so NASCAR acted, and I'm glad they acted. I don't necessarily. I'm a Joe Nemechek fan. I think Joe's a great guy, and I know that was a heat of the moment deal. But still, you got to be responsible for your actions, and they made him responsible.
If he would have turned him in the middle of the turn, it might only have been $7,500, but it was a little more for where he turned him.
Before he did it, yeah.
Casey Atwood, what must it be like to be 19 years old and to get a call from Ray Evernham to get signed to go drive the Dodge factory car in the Winston Cup Series?
It's got to be a pretty cool deal, there's no doubt. And I think that, he's got a bright future ahead of him, and especially with Ray and their organization, and I think he'll do well.
Qualifying Wednesday, the order the cars run that's determined by random draw is usually a pretty big deal at Charlotte because of the sunset. You're on camera, Mike. But this time, qualifying was moved back an hour because television wanted to show it live. And I think that changed the importance of the draw, running early versus running late. Agree, disagree?
I'm in agreement with that. I went out first, and Alan, a year ago, I made notes from the 600 a year ago. It was at 7 o'clock, and Jeff Bodine went out one of the first 3 or 4 cars, and after 20 cars had gone, he was 10th. And when the whole field was done, everybody qualified, he was 23rd out of 46. So that indicated to me the track didn't pick up a great deal because he was half when 10 had gone and he was half when everybody had gone. So I had a lot of confidence when the qualifying started that the draw that I got going out first wasn't going to be a disadvantage. It was going to be fine to go out first, and I was going to be able to get a great lap. But then it rained, and they started pulling all those machines on the track to blow stuff off of it, and a dash card wrecked, and there was a lot of things stacked up against me going out first after all that. So then
it wasn't your fault, basically.
Yeah, not at all. But I think you're right. The draw was not a factor. It took me a long time to get there, but I had a point.
Thank you. Finally, a real quick thought. Reports, printed reports, newspapers, and so on of a possible Pontiac rule change upcoming. We ask our 2 Pontiac panelists here, what about it? What do you hear?
Well, I hear that they're working on it. I know that there's been some wind tunnel testing that NASCAR went to, and we added some downforce that puts us close to what the Chevrolet and the Fords are. Hopefully we get it.
Okay. Take a break here. Come back and review the Coca-Cola 600 from Sunday night in just a minute.
This is a real big day for me. Obviously, it's a real big accomplishment for our whole race team. It's hard to believe that just this far through the year we've already got our first win, and it's here at Charlotte. I hated to give that one away at California, but I guess I would have traded it for winning here at home. I've always wanted to win here real bad, and came close a couple times in Busch Car and could never get it done. So it means a lot for me to win here.
Matt Kenseth, winner of the Coca-Cola 600. Its 41st running on Sunday night. And we come back now on NASCAR Inside Winston Cup to review the event with our expert panel. Michael Waltrip, Johnny Benson, and Ken Schrader. Race summary, 400 laps to make up the 600-mile distance at Charlotte. 9 lead changes among 10 drivers. That number might seem kind of low for a 600-mile race, but it was a fairly competitive night all the way through. Only 11 of the 43 starters finished on the lead lap. That's not all that unusual either in a 600-mile event. And we begin our race review by taking a look at some of the early action. Dale Earnhardt Jr. started on pole and led all but 2 of the opening 47 laps, only losing the lead here at lap 8 when he briefly traded the top spot with Bill Elliott. Jr. would go back by Bill. Want to talk about weather conditions here in the early part. They changed drastically from Sunday morning. We had a little rain shower, then the sun came out, then the clouds came over, and how this affected what you were deciding to do to your cars before the race, and then what you found out about your cars when the race started.
Go ahead, Kenny.
Anybody? Somebody?
I know one thing I want to say. This tire, maybe it was the Goodyear tire, but it was much more consistent daylight to dark. I didn't see the huge change in track conditions. If you were a little loose in the afternoon, well, then you were probably going to be a little loose at night, which is highly unusual. Usually at Charlotte, as the sun goes down, that track tightens up a great deal. And we didn't see that all throughout the whole couple of weeks of action over at Charlotte. It was like the conditions didn't change much, even with all the factors that you mentioned earlier. Agree or disagree?
I think you summed it up real good, Mike.
Now, what time did
Now,
you
made
go
a
to bed?
difference when you qualified.
What?
Hey,
It was just faster. It just was faster.
Yeah.
It didn't stick any
you
different.
should have seen us leaving the racetrack yesterday. Sterling wanted to ride to the airport, so we were dumb and dumber on the Suzuki dirt bike again.
Oh, you went for it?
Oh, yeah.
All
Got
right,
him over
I got to get some footage of that. That's so funny. You ought to see him. He looks like he's riding a pony. I mean, you got this big old man on this little bitty motorcycle. His feet's dragging the
A little
ground.
bitty motorcycle.
They got a bubble shield on his helmet. He looks cool. Mm-hmm. And so, what were you talking about?
I have
Something
no
about
idea.
something about the race.
Had something to do with the race, but I'm not sure.
There has to be a caution about now. Was there a caution?
Let's go to the first caution at
Okay.
lap number 81. Watch the tent in the camera shot. When the camera comes out from behind it, there's a car sideways on the racetrack.
What a very fortunate young man that is.
And look at our winner.
Yeah, just Matt slipped by, but you don't spin out at Charlotte very often without hitting something, and Park was real lucky there.
Jerry Nadeau moved up to become the dominant car after Dale Earnhardt Jr. led the first 47 laps. We're going to see a driver change here on the 43 car as John Andretti has to get out. That had to be one of the weirder happenings of the weekend during practice on Saturday morning.
Well, I think that, I guess he broke a rib, but I'm sure a lot of it had to do with his wreck that he had the week before there, and then he agitated a little bit more, and he was hurting pretty good. I mean, I know he went to the hospital and then came back and just run a couple laps and decided time for somebody else to get in this thing. It was a long race.
Jerry Nadeau has taken over the lead at this point. It has built up as much as a 4-second advantage at times. Lap number 131 we go to now. More trouble off turn 4. Very similar looking thing to what happened to Steve Park. This time it's Mike Bliss that's facing the wrong way for a minute.
Well,
we can get all over Barry about that and find out exactly what happened when
he
he's on.
didn't hit anything either. Maybe it's not that big of a deal to spin out of Charlotte.
I think it is.
3 teams take just 2 tires on this stop. Mike Skinner there, first in the frame. Dale Jarrett left of the frame, and also Jeff Burton get 2 tires, 131 laps in. Now, this had been only 19 laps since the last stop. Nothing to lose at that point.
That's the key to that deal. There's a great time to try it. When you come down to the end of the race, if there's a caution with 30 laps to go, as there was at the end, they have that experience behind them. They know what it's like to put on 2 tires with only a few laps on their left side. So that was the decision there. It didn't have anything to do as much with positioning at that point, maybe, is just a little bit of a note for later on.
Plus, the tire wear was extremely good. I don't think anybody was wearing tires out at all. And like Mike said, now is the time to try it for later in the race.
Lap 152, let's look at some more trouble, this time in turn number 2 for Scott Pruitt, who gets by with a little help from his friends.
Yeah, that was unfortunate because I was right behind them.
Yeah, I was too, I think.
Yeah, Schrader got into a little bit of a deal with the 13 car there. He, I don't exactly know what I guess you can't see anything at all.
In that smoke.
In that smoke, and he comes out the other end and runs into Schrader. I saw it. I was right behind them, too.
I did get run into.
You did. It wasn't your fault.
Okay.
You were just minding your own business.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Glad I wasn't around
It's
that.
been an expert review so far. We get a
We're
long
gonna have
green
to pump
flag
this up a
run.
little bit.
I don't know why that boy, why Robert got into him. I guess just got too close.
Momentum.
Got air off.
Robert had more. It took his air off the spoiler and then he hit him. Yeah.
Lap 155 to lap 246, we get a very long green flag run. The leaders will have to stop in the middle of that, and Bobby Labonte will come out with the lead from that set of stops. He pitted 3 laps sooner than Dale Jr. and 1 lap sooner than Jerry Nadeau, who was the front runner to that point. Now there's rain in the area at this point, and so Labonte's getting off pit road first was kind of a big deal.
Yes, it was. Everybody was watching that rain, and even in the race car, Alan, I can see hot dog wrappers and stuff blowing everywhere. It just looks like it's fixing to rain. You can see the dark clouds moving in, so this was a real concern.
Anything else you'd like to talk about that has nothing to do with the race while we have a couple seconds here?
No, but have you had one of their hot dogs over there?
No, I haven't had one of their hot dogs.
Very, very good.
Hey, but that's not a little motorcycle. That hurts. You said it's a 400 Suzuki dirt bike. I mean, it's nice.
We must have traded that mini bike you was on in Richmond in on the.
Well, it's a different bike than I had.
Oh, okay.
This is brand new.
I knew that.
So much harassment from the last bike you had. You had to move up. Hey, you asked.
Thursday night, I know, shame on me. It was good for some levity there. Thursday night, 7 Eastern time, Tim Fita was my guest on This Week in NASCAR. Got a question for the Busch Series winner up in New Hampshire? Give us a call on the GM Fan Forum number. This Week in NASCAR, Thursday, 7 Eastern on Speed Vision. Robbie Reiser in the middle of that victory celebration after his team and driver Matt Kenseth won the Coca-Cola 600 Sunday night. We're reviewing the event now, more attempting to with Michael, Johnny, and Kenny. And we're up to about the midway point of the race, and the weather is the story at this point. It's all around the racetrack, rain and thunderstorms, all kinds of colors on the weather radar. And at lap number 248, it begins to drip a little bit too heavy to continue running at speed. Under the caution flag, the leader, Bobby Labonte, pitted, which surprised me. Jerry Nadeau and Jeff Burton stayed on the racetrack. I was surprised that he pitted at the time, but obviously Jimmy Makar knew a little bit more of what was going on than I did.
Well, you could look at the radar in the NASCAR trailer, and it was going to be wet for a little bit, but just a little bit, and then they were going to be able to dry it. And at that, it was 9 o'clock when we stopped on pit road, and they weren't going to call it at 9 o'clock. And so there was pretty much for sure that we were going to go back and go racing.
So with Nadeau and Jeff Burton not pitting there, staying on the racetrack, when we went back under caution after the 51-minute red, they had to pit, went back to 13th and 14th. Mistake on their part, staying out, nothing to lose.
Not on Nadeau's part. He had an engine problem. He stayed out to get the lead and pray it would rain forever. Because he knew he was a dead duck anyway.
He already had the problem?
He already had the problem. And Jeff Burton, I don't know what the story is with Jeff. He always runs great everywhere we go. It doesn't matter where you see him early in the race. If he starts last or if he's running 30th, 100 laps in, when the checker falls, he's in the top 5. They just work on that car and he makes it better and he gets it to the front. He just wasn't able to accomplish that on Sunday.
Yeah, in the last 2 weeks, didn't run any good in the Winston either last week, so they were definitely not up to their normal performance. When the red was withdrawn, okay,
wow.
You say that 5
now
times
that's impressive. Red was withdrawn.
Nadeau and Burton pitted, falling to
the whole
13th
time?
and 14th. Yeah, he just stood there in the rain and held the flag
held
up.
the red, so no one took off.
That's right.
Okay.
Just didn't want, you guys, you got to spell out everything you want to happen for you guys very carefully.
Okay.
Nadeau and Burton pitted, saying one of the reasons they stayed out was because if they went a few more laps under the caution, they could make the race on one more pit stop.
Well, everybody was doing that strategy. We did the same thing when it came one to go. We dove in the pit, and you saw a lot of cars doing that. But you're right. If it had stayed green for the entire distance, we were set to just make one stop in the middle and be done with it. Where a lot of cars couldn't do that, even from the point which the race restarted. But as you'll probably point out here in a minute, another caution falls.
Yeah, I wonder who that was.
This was for our man Schrader.
Yeah, that's coming up very quickly here. At this point in the race, Nadeau's got a broken valve spring, so he's going to fall back into the field. Dale Jr. will reestablish himself as the dominant driver, and we get to lap number 310, and it's the green car in turn 2.
That's the black and yellow one right behind him there. I had a good view of it. That corner, I just got to tell you, that corner.
Look at this, though. Look at
Very nice.
Gathered back up.
Very nice.
You're heading
Third
in the right
gear
direction.
on the way.
That corner was slick, I thought. I saw a lot of guys.
I thought it was. Really slick.
I saw a lot of guys juking off that corner. What about this rookie team here? To make a big deal out of the rookie drivers and what they've accomplished, but he didn't come in leading the race, and his team zipped off a 15.9 stop and got him out in the lead.
He'd get passed by Junior quickly there, but yes, they did a terrific job on pit road, and especially the final stop we're going to see coming up in a minute. They helped him also. 38 laps to go. Jerry Nadeau's engine finally gives up the chase after it's been slowing down and rattling around for a while. He drops some oil on the back straightaway, and we get a caution flag, setting up what would be a critical round of final pit stops. Watch the work here and watch the screen on the right to see who gets off the pit lane first. This was what ended Dale Jr.'s chance to win.
Yeah, you know, these pit stops are just so critical, and Junior's car was good all night long, but it's just sometimes you don't get off pit road as good as you'd like. It's very hard to pass, especially with 38 laps to go.
Junior's going to come out 6th for the restart.
Slipped in front of him there.
Bobby Labonte comes out with the lead, but with 25 to go. There goes Matt with the winning pass.
Yeah, Matt's car was just extremely good. I mean, it looked like he could run anywhere he wanted on the track. And, you know, and Bobby Labonte gets around that place extremely well. So those guys did a good job.
I want to back up to Dale Jr. for a minute. How can that happen to his car? I'm not even talking about the lost track position on the pit stop, but he's been the dominant car for the last, 150 miles. He had a 4-second lead at one point. He comes off of pit road after changing tires 6th, and he can't get any farther ahead than 4th.
Well, guys work on their cars along the way too, Alan. Maybe his car didn't like the set of tires it got as much as it had prior to that. And then you take Matt Kenseth and Bobby Labonte and Dale Earnhardt, the 3 that beat him, they adjusted on those cars, and they had them the best they had been all day long at the end of the race. So it's just a fine line between being able to run out and leave everybody and just being one of the guys. And Dale Earnhardt Jr. found that out. He didn't have a car capable of getting around the 6 guys and winning the race, whereas early in the race it looked like he would have. But there was only 34 or 38 laps to go when the green fell. So coming from 6th to the 1st with guys like Bobby Labonte and the way Matt Kenseth was running, that was a plateful, even if his car was perfect. I don't know if he could have done it either way.
In the final laps, Kenseth is leading. Bobby Labonte, very experienced winning driver, is hunting another groove to try and see if he can overtake him. Matt had to be nervous.
Well, that car, I mean, you are nervous in these situations when somebody's breathing down on you like that, but man, it handled well. He came by, and Sterling Marlin made the comment to me at the rain break. He said, what about that 17? He came by us in the middle of the race, and it looked like he was on a qualifying lap, diving way down in the corner and the thing just sticking like glue. So he had a good car. He won $200,950 for his efforts.
First win in his 18th start, first rookie to ever win the 600. Back-to-back rookie wins, with Earnhardt Jr. winning a couple of weeks ago at Richmond, and the 11th different winner in 12 races this season.
Ray Evernham's got to be feeling pretty good right now. He's got him a rookie, and he's thinking, these guys know what they're doing, it appears.
He's also got him Bill Elliott, too, but that's another story. Bobby Labonte second for a 3rd straight race at Charlotte. He's been the runner-up.
That's not a bad place to be if you can't win.
Yeah, especially when you're the point leader.
It's the next best place to be, really.
I guess it is when you think about it.
6 drivers failed to finish, 5 of them for engine failures, only a couple of spins, and a fairly clean race on Sunday night. And now we check the championship standings. Bobby's lead over Ward goes from 3 to 54 points. Ward wound up finishing 13th. His handling, they struggled with that on a couple of different segments in the race. Earnhardt and Burton swap 4th and 5th. Johnny is 19th, Schrader's 21st, Mikey's 24th. And we'll come back with the hot seat and Barry Dodson in just a minute.
Who has the longest hitting streak?
It is time for the hot seat, and this week's unwilling guest, is Barry Dodson. 19 wins as a Winston Cup crew chief. He heads the Eel River Racing operation for driver Mike Bliss, and it is a pleasure to welcome Barry to our studios. How you doing?
Good. A little tired.
Yeah. Unwilling victim or guest, which I, kind of both.
You kind of both.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Appreciate your coming by.
Thank you.
I turn you over to our esteemed expert panel for questioning.
I got a question.
Okay. That didn't take long.
No.
One of my fondest memories is you joining the Ultra Motorsports team and Mike Bliss at North Wilkesboro and winning the race. How'd that feel? What was that like?
I tell you, you know, winning all the Winston Cup races are so important in my career, but to kind of back off from Winston Cup racing at that point in time through some personal tragedy, and then come back as a favor for the weekend to help Jimmy Smith, and to go out and take Mike, who had not won a race, and to be an hour from home and go up there and win that thing, and it had all the Winston Cup guys in it.
Yeah.
Is a very big win to me, and I appreciate you asking that.
That was the neatest thing I believe I've ever seen, because Mike Bliss was, everybody knew he's a great race car driver, but he hadn't shown that he was going to win that race. I mean, you had Mark Martin. I mean, there was tons of guys in that race.
It was Ernie's comeback.
Yeah, and then Barry and those guys put it all together and won the race. What a great day.
Now, you said that, you know, you're doing the Winston Cup thing, won a lot of races, took some time off, and then, you know, did the truck deal for a while. What made that push to come back to Winston Cup? I know you said for a long time, nah, I really like you here, I'm not going to go do the Winston Cup thing. What made the next change for you to come back?
Well, we had quite a bit of success, truck series, set on a lot of poles, won a bunch of races. Mainly, I'm going to be honest, you guys, I miss my friends. Grown up in Winston Cup racing, starting with the Petties in the early 70s, and that's where my friends were, and I felt like when the time was right, I'd come back.
It had to be good, and they haven't had the smoothest year, like a lot of us so far. But you had to be excited to get Mike back in to work with him.
Yeah, it was pretty devastating when we lost Mike. At the time, we didn't have sponsorship, and AJ picked him up, and it put us behind. We picked Jeff Fuller to drive for us for a while. Did a great job qualifying the car. We struggled finishing, and then we got Mike back, and that's who we had originally wanted. At the same time we got him back, we're dealing with a new design of a tire, and we're struggling a little bit, and it looks like, well, we're not doing as well as expected, and we're not. We've not been invited to the wind tunnel all year, and you know how paramount that is. I talked to one car owner last night, and then it wasn't a Pontiac, and he said, I've been 20, you know, we're going 20 times this year, and it's hurting us right now. I can't find the balance on our car with the new Goodyear tire, which is an excellent tire, but it's going to take a lot of homework to be competitive.
But we see, you know, in practice and when you're preparing for the race, that car's competitive. I mean, you hit it sometimes, and Sunday night, obviously, last night wasn't your night, but at Richmond, you had a good car, and at Martinsville, places like this where Mike's accustomed to running, you've had a really good car.
Very good car. Top 10 car. We felt like Martinsville and Richmond had a brake problem at Martinsville. Our fault, ran over some brakes, I think, that fell off of Robert Presley's car or whatever. Cut a right front tire, got into Kenny Irwin at Richmond, went to Talladega, where I had been a little bit concerned about Mike's drafting ability, and he did just a stellar job. Made no mistakes, ran up front all day long, and made it through that one big crash, and Little Lee came up out of the grass and got us. We still came home with a good finish. So we haven't caught a break, and I think you hit on it earlier a while ago. With this new tire, we thought that we would be tight last night. We were loose in the daylight. We thought we'd be good last night. We stayed terribly loose all night. Yeah. Worked on the car all we could never quite get it.
That when you're backwards in the grass, that's a picture of loose. If you could explain loose, that's it right there.
Backwards in the wall is loose.
That's another variation of it.
Just backwards, period.
You know, Kenny started with a Grand Prix and ended up with a Grand Am.
Yeah. That's funny, Barry. That's funny.
Now, you were telling us a story off the air before these guys actually showed up for the show that I thought was hilarious about last night's race. Do you mind?
No, I don't mind.
It was funny.
You know, we started in the back, struggled with our qualifying, shared a pit with PJ, who was driving for Robbie Gordon. So we had the last pit coming off turn 4, okay? So we're waiting for somebody to fall out, and I said, well, it's not going to be long. Then Bill Elliott loses an engine, and they said, you can move to his pit. It's pit 1 down there. And I said, well, I'm not going to do that. I told the guys, I said, we'll wait till somebody else opens up. It's got to be a whole lot closer, you know. Then the 50 car falls out. He's about 10 cars away. And I tell the inspector, I said, we're going to go take the 50 cars pit because it's a lot closer for us. I had all this figured out. And they said, nah, you don't get a choice. Take the 94 or don't take one. And out of respect to the guys, on Robbie's team, you know, I said, we don't need to be in their pit. They earned it, we didn't. So let's go to the #1 pit. So I'm going down, and you just about know it's going to happen. I get about 1/4 of the way. I'm leading the group. I've got a pit jack, and that's all I've got, and I'm running, and everybody else is a half mile behind me. Caution falls. Our car's terribly loose. I said, there's no way we're going to get tires on it. So I go all the way down to the #1 pit, and the McDonald's crew's really not out of there yet. And I asked this kid, I said, can I borrow a wedge wrench? He said, what are you going to do with it? I said, I'm going to put wedge in our car. And he said, whose car? I said, our car, the Viagra car. We're taking this pit from you guys. And he said, are you going to give it back to me? And I said, yeah, I'll give it back. So I finally got it from the guy, and then another guy tried to take it. So I go out on pit road, and I say, okay, Mike, come on in. The leaders have pitted. We were coming in next lap. I said, come on in. No pit board. It's like in the 50s. I'm out on pit road. I said, do you see me? Do you see me? I'm waving my hands.
You got a wedge wrench in your hand.
He comes in. I got a wedge wrench. I fix the left front fender a little bit. I go to the left rear. I put around a wedge in. I walk around the back of the car. I put around a bite in, and I look up, and the 88 team is doubled over laughing. And I'm thinking, you know, if I had looked this silly, I'd have left the wedge out. But it was like going back in time. It was a hilarious story.
When I'd have went to McDonald's pit, instead of asking for a wedge wrench, I'd ask for a pit crew.
Yeah. Well,
You guys busy for a minute? Barry, thanks for taking the time to come down. Really appreciate it, and continued success to you, and best of luck as you try and build this team and get it up into the top 10.
We're going to get
Hey,
there.
Alan, we're struggling. Is there any way we could get Barry to stick around and do the bush highlights?
Fine by me. You want to stick around?
Hey, there you are, back on pit road.
Hanging on.
You got more guys with you this time.
That would have been the big day, wouldn't it?
That's on the way to the championship there.
Championship in Atlanta.
There you go.
May Carr, Todd Parrott, Harold Elliott, little brother John and Brad, awesome group of guys.
All-star
Left out
cast.
Raymond.
Yeah, Raymond's standing right there.
My little boy Trey on the left.
There you go.
Yeah.
Stay with us. We'll come back in a minute.
This week's Castrol Flashback Fact takes us back to May 29, 1994, when John Andretti makes history by competing in both the Indianapolis 500 and the Coca-Cola 600 on the same day.
NASCAR Inside Winston Cup is brought to you in part by the motor oil that provides maximum protection, Castrol GTX, Drive Hard, and Moog. Choose the chassis parts that drive NASCAR champions to victory. Moog, now with M2 technology.
Back on NASCAR Inside Winston Cup, reviewing the weekend's action from Charlotte. Now turning our attention to the NASCAR Busch Series race, the CarQuest 300s. A lot of caution flags in this one, especially in the first half of the race. And 6 of the 43 starters finished on the lead lap. Let's go right to the rash of yellow fever that started the event. 7 of the 9 cautions in the opening 91 laps of the event. Lap 4, that's Chad Chaffin getting some help.
This is wonderful that everybody would be this much heads up, because right here it's like, oh, it's going to spin the other way, and you talk about everybody doing a good job.
Yeah, it was a moving chicane there. I mean, he was everywhere, and nobody hit him. I thought everybody did an excellent job, because there was 10 more cars that should have been involved in that wreck.
By the way, that was Jimmy Spencer that
I lit him up.
I can't believe that.
Zippo lit him up.
Zippo lit him up.
here's the beautiful Jason Keller's car.
Oh, I mean, Jason ended up spinning the car, but I'll tell you what, without getting it damaged, that was fine. Like I said, there should have been 10 more cars in that wreck, and it wasn't.
Yeah, did a great job. Let's move ahead to lap number 15. This time it's the pole sitter, Dave Blaney. And it's more trouble off of turn number 4.
Loose.
I don't think Todd Bodine got
Contact.
Yeah.
He was just behind me.
Don't believe Todd hit him.
No, he said he was extremely loose the whole race there. And, you know, when Todd got behind him there, it was just a little bit more loose than what he was.
Now, honestly, no idea how this happened. Hank Parker and Jay Sauter got crashed behind him, and I really have no idea. We heard a report that when Blaney hit the wall, he dropped some oil, but I went back and started looking at the film, and Hank crashed way too early in that corner to have hit oil where Blaney crashed.
Pretty big wreck, though.
But, too, when you hear somebody start yelling wreck in turn 4, it might have been an incident where he did the right thing and maybe got off the gas pedal and got hit. We don't know without having it on film, but might be a deal. Somebody just checked up, and, I mean, if somebody's right behind you,
That's 2 big wrecks in 2 days for Hank Jr.
Yes.
Yeah.
He wrecked on Friday afternoon.
The headache award for the day had to have been won by Kenny Wallace. Not 1, but 2 spins. Unfortunately for our friend Kenny, we're going to look at both of them. This is lap 33.
He
Got loose.
yeah, he spun out.
Yep.
Okay, there's one of them. Most of the leaders pit under this caution except Burton and Kenseth. They said it was too early to stop at lap 33 and take a set of tires.
I think in hindsight, it worked out fine for them, but I think when everybody else pitted, they almost wished they had it. And in fact, Matt's crew chief said he did wish they had it.
We go back racing, and a few laps later at lap 47, we're going to see Kenny in trouble again while Matt and Jeff race for the lead, and the others who did stop come up behind them.
I was impressed that these 2 guys could hang on to the lead like they did. They ran right up front without pitting, and it seemed as if all week we've seen the importance of tires.
There's Kenny.
I'm thinking here that with the right side damage, I think the left front might have went flat on him, and just from the body there, and got the right side of the car pretty hard.
So Burton and Kenseth pit at this point. They'll restart 25th and 26th.
Yeah, so see it.
Position lost.
It did hurt them eventually. They should have pitted.
Thank you.
I mean, it didn't hurt Jeff too much.
Yeah, it didn't hurt too bad, but
I wasn't going to comment.
Mark Martin opens up a huge lead at this point while Burton and Kenseth make their way through the field. Now we go to the section of giving credit to the Busch Series regulars where it's due, because basically Martin and Kenseth and Burton made all the headlines Saturday. Jeff Green was fabulous. Started 26th, wound up finishing 3rd.
And come up through the pack pretty good. I mean, he was really good down at the bottom, and
yeah.
Harold Holly and Charles and all them boys that work on that car, they just do an awesome job preparing it for Jeff, and the team and the driver have a good relationship. It's fun to walk over there and talk to Harold and Charles and those guys and see what they do and hear their thinking and watch the results that they're able to put up.
They're racing smart, too. Very smart.
Yep. 36 laps to go. Final pit stops begin for the leaders. Mark Martin comes in, just gets right side tires, but leaves with something extra.
yeah, they're trying to put 2 cans of gas in here, and they decide they're going to go, and guy forgot to hang on. You see the actual gas can guy try to grab his overflow can, but didn't get a hold of it.
That happened to him at Vegas this year, I believe, too.
Watch how hard he has to work to get it out of there, though, when he comes back in.
Wasn't coming out, was it?
No. And then the guy held him for, what, 10 seconds or something. I'm not sure that there's really a penalty for that.
I think he thought there was supposed to be a 15-second penalty there, and I said on the broadcast Saturday I thought that had been a mistake. I think he made the mistake. He made a mistake there.
I wasn't sure if I thought at one time well, maybe he sped down pit road, but that would be unusual for Mark to do that. And ended up being, I think that was just a mistake on the guy holding.
Yeah. So Mark Martin falls back into the pack and has some problems there, and will no longer be a factor for the win in reality. Caution for debris with 15 laps to go sets up some strategy. Jeff Gordon and Todd Bodine stay out. Jeff Burton and the other leaders pit. Restarting with 11 laps to go, and in trying to jam through the traffic, Matt Kenseth is going to find himself turned around facing the wrong way.
That's a good plan right there. He's just trying to follow the 9 to stay in his draft, but he cut over a little bit quick, and the 98 didn't give him a break. Probably couldn't give him a break. He came over so quickly that Matt and he made contact, and they spun around. But the 98 probably was as surprised as Matt was when Matt turned around. The 98, he didn't know he was
went
coming.
in the grass.
Right.
I mean, he actually went in the grass too. So
he did all he could do.
Matt must really liked it, though, because he went in the grass again.
Yeah, he did a lot better job on
Well, he
Sunday,
had some
though.
experience there by now.
He knew a lot more control.
As they raced back to the caution flag from that spin, Jeff Burton went by Jeff Gordon, who had just taken 2 tires on the previous pit stop. It was the pass for the win. Now to the final laps. Mark Martin's trying to make a late charge up through the field. He'll come close, but not close enough.
Jeff Burton said his decision to put on 4 tires on that 15 laps to go caution was because he didn't lap Mark Martin. Mark Martin was the next car to be lapped when the caution fell, and he knew what Mark Martin was going to do. He was going to come in and get him 4 tires. And Jeff said, if I want to beat this cat, I better make sure I got 4 too, because Mark was extremely good all day long, and you can see him here carving through the field. He's going to just come up a little bit short, but he's gaining on Jeff for sure.
They're coming to 3 laps to go. Mark goes to 2nd spot, but he will not pass Jeff Burton. And for the 2nd time in the 2000 Busch Series season, Jeff Burton goes to victory lane. Both times at the expense of Mark Martin, who should have probably won the race each time.
Could have.
Could have, should have, would have.
Yep.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Jeff Green third, Todd Bodine fourth. Fifth, rather, I'm sorry. Top 2 drivers in the Busch Series Championship. How about Kevin Harvick, 39th to 8th?
Real good run.
Solid run. Blaze Alexander, a top 10. You look at the rest of the rundown from Saturday's CarQuest 300. You know, Barry, with this crew, you got to just jump in. They're not going to let you talk.
Oh, I know. They do a fabulous job of talking.
Yeah, we do.
Championship standings.
We don't do a fabulous job of saying a whole lot, but we do a fabulous job of talking.
You guys are blessed.
Jeff gains 10 on Todd Bodine. The Busch Series running in Dover this Saturday.
Would you call that a
Question
two-man race?
Of the week
I think that's a two-man race. You?
is next.
This week's Pep Boys Tip of the Week. Check your automatic transmission fluid monthly while the car is running and on a level surface. If the color is not bright red, have the fluid changed.
Back on NASCAR Inside Winston Cup, and it is time now for the ever-popular, ever-dangerous Question of the Week. Our Pelote Question of the Week this week from Kent Thiel of Arlington, Wisconsin wants to know, he says, I know about the glue that holds the lug nuts to the tire. What keeps them from being knocked off when the lugs poke the rim?
Hey, wait a minute. We got an expert here.
got the guy here for this.
Let's let Barry.
Okay. The glue is actually what keeps them from popping off. And I'll tell you something that's very critical is how early you glue these lug nuts to the wheel on race day, and the weather dictates that. You know, when it's a cold day, we try to do it 5 or 6 hours ahead of time. When it's a hot day, we try to do it like 2 hours. And it's, you know, you get all the glue out of the holes. Some guys use a particular brand, and that's what we do on race day, another brand in practice, because we need to practice putting them back on also when they do fall off, because the officials look for that now.
And I think the part that they were showing where the guy was cleaning the hubs off there was the first half an inch or 3/4 of an inch of the stud. Doesn't have any threads on it, so it slides on there and sticks on.
But when they put the tire on, the glue actually holds the lugs on, but it stretches out.
Yeah, you want to have it timed to where the glue stretches perfectly, and the wheel just kind of pulls it on. And like Johnny said, all the wheel studs are bullet shaped on the end.
Man,
that might have been the best Question of the Week answer we've had in 4.5 years on the show.
I really didn't have any
deal work.
That's what amazes me. I didn't have anything to add, but I could feel it was going so good. I wanted to be a part of it. So I asked about the glue. The gas deal, that's another.
Yeah, we'll do that. Well, maybe somebody will write us in.
They
a
got
question.
that probe.
Thank you. We'll preview Dover when we come back after this. Break now, quick.
If you have a question for our drivers, mail it to us to Question of the Week, Post Office Box 240417, Charlotte, North Carolina 28224, or email us at speedvision.com. If we use your question, you'll receive a pair of Pelote driving shoes. Please specify blue or black and your shoe size. Pelote driving shoes you can wear all day.
Bobby Labonte on fuel mileage snuck away with a victory in the MBNA 400 at Dover last June. We return to the Monster Mile this weekend with the Winston Cup Series and preview the event now with Johnny, Michael, and Kenny and Barry Dodson. And since we've been goofing off talking about dirt bikes and all the rest, we need to hurry through our race preview. Here's a lap around the Monster Mile. Go.
It's concrete.
This is a great track. You go right down to the bottom. We've done this 100 times. Barry, what's some of the challenges that the crew faces when you go to Dover?
Looking for hot dogs at halfway. It's 400 miles now. It's at least the concrete stays pretty consistent. We were up there last Wednesday testing. The racetrack's the smoothest I've ever seen.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. And
how'd the test go?
Very well.
What speeds are we going to be looking at?
Record speeds coming up?
I don't think so.
No?
Maybe. 22 second, mid-22s right in there.
I don't think so, maybe. You could be on this show every week with us.
Well, one thing that we like about Dover is it's multi-group, where it didn't used to be that way, so that
you
part's
can spread
cool.
out and go.
Move everywhere you want.
It's an excellent racetrack. The only thing that that it's lacking is a tunnel.
Yeah. And that's all the time we have to preview Dover. We'll take a break. We'll come back in a minute. 45 seconds left. First, check this out from Peevely. There's a sign that's turned up on the snow cone machine.
Oh, there it is.
Johnny Snow Cones.
Our money should be arriving any day, I guess.
You got the dunce hats on, too.
If you're watching the Monday airing of this show, it's a big day. There's about how many candles in that envelope?
Well, we got to all help. We'll have to help all put them on there.
Let's put some candles on.
It's Kenny's birthday.
Kenny's happy birthday. Let's sing.
I think there's more candles. You don't need that many candles.
Birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Kenny. Happy birthday to you.
Next week, it'll be a serious show. Please come back and join us. I promise you, Mike, you'll do good.
NASCAR Inside Winston Cup has been presented by Pep Boys, Cars Like Us, People Love Us, and Eagle One Car Appearance Products. For the look you dream about. Drivers and crew.
Better than